Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Jon Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best day movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California. And a reminder, it is Election Day. You know, there are a lot of people in this world who wish they lived in countries where they had the privilege and the right to vote. There's some people who live in this country who wish they had a right to vote, and we don't. You do. Well, if you're one of the American citizens watching this, you do have the right to vote. Make sure you get out and do it today.
Well said. Also here is Jon Schnepp.
What's up? See that? That's right. I voted. I'm American. Do it. And there's a long line. It's totally worth it. You get to hang out with people, talk to them while you're in line. Do your job as an American citizen and vote. It's up to you.
Also here, Jeremy Jahns.
I mailed mine in before I came down here to California, and I phone it in every time I'm here.
Also here is Mark Ellis.
If you're in line to vote right now, show everybody movie talk. Have a conversation. Get involved.
All right, let's get this thing started.
Okay, one of the main antagonists in the new Batman film will be Slade Wilson, AKA Deathstroke, played by Joe Manganiello. Manganiello recently sat down with former professional wrestling commentator Mark Madden, and the two spoke about Ben Affleck's take on The Dark Knight. Here's what he said via a report from Screen Rant. Affleck's take is a fresh take, but I think the audience is going to be surprised because it's a road that no one really's gone down that's completely integral to, you know, who Batman is. And I think it's going to be refreshing, but at the same time completely familiar. But it's going to take this franchise in a direction that I think a lot of people are going to be really happy about. It's going to be gritty and action-packed and cerebral and all of those elements that people love about Batman. Jon, what do you think about Manganiello's comments about the Batman?
I actually really like the comments. Now, look, like we say all the time, what do you expect an actor to say talking about a movie they have coming up soon? They're going to say it's going to be great and awesome. So you got to see through that part. But when you get past that part, one of the things that he said in there that I really, really liked was when he emphasized that the movie is going to be gritty. And I like that. Because even though the general consensus on Batman v Superman was pretty much split amongst audiences, I think most people agreed. The take on Batman was great, and the take on who this Batman character is, and at the core of that, he was gritty. And I've been getting a little nervous hearing from the Warner Brothers camp saying, we're going to change the tone, we're going to make it lighter and happy and stuff like that. And I've gotten worried about that because to me, none of the problems with Batman vs. Superman were tone. And to hear Joe say, I've sat down with Ben himself, and the way he describes it, one of the key phrases is gritty, and I really like it. And of course, I like hearing that's going to be action-packed. Of course, you're going to have the familiar with some original stuff in there. But then again, a lot of it is just fluff that you expect to hear from a guy talking about an upcoming movie he's going to be in. One of the other interesting things, though, that he said in this interview, we did not quote it here, but he goes on to talk about Ben Affleck and say, look, this dude is an incredible filmmaker. The last film he directed won Best Picture. And don't forget, he's got an Academy Award on his shelf for writing as well. You know, it reminded me, I think when Ben Affleck, for a lot of years, I think a lot of us, me included, Ben Affleck fan, thought, man, that Academy Award he won for writing was probably a bit of a fluke. Probably a fluke. But now that we're seeing him more as a filmmaker, you're starting to realize, you know what, that writing Academy Award was probably no fluke. Anyway, Schnepp, you hear all these comments. What's your reaction to them?
It makes me just all the more excited to see this film. I wish they would just get a release date down. I know, we keep hearing all these rumors, this and that, but it's nice to hear Joe actually say, hey, look, I've talked to Ben about the script. What really caught me is talking about how different yet familiar it's going to be and cerebral. So the word cerebral automatically, I think Arkham Asylum. I instantly think they're going to have certain sequences from not only the graphic novel Arkham Asylum, but certain things that we've seen with all of Batman's rogues, villains. That's one of early rumors we heard there's going to be a lot of villains in there, but it's probably going to be in that kind of environment where they're contained and in prison. Maybe Batman's in prison, maybe Batman is stuck in Arkham. There's going to be something where we're going to get that kind of flavor where he's going to have to battle his own demons. So that to me is really exciting.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the physical match and the mental match that Slade Wilson is for Batman, because we got our introduction. Because when you're going to do a series of movies with a character, you do the introduction, then you go the Empire Strikes Back route. But we got our introduction with Batman already in Batman versus Superman. So now, if they go full Empire Strikes Back with Slade Wilson, this guy who is a physical and mental match from when Batman finds out that he is not the biggest guy in the block, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, you're right. Everyone behind the movie, Ben Affleck's writing, directing, everyone behind the movie, there's no reason this movie should suck. If it does, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna go sad Affleck on you. I'm gonna right here.
Not gonna suck.
Do you imagine the day after I'm gonna be here like this, just doing sad Affleck the entire time? You're gonna be like, so that movie? I'll be like, yeah, it's okay, it's good.
It's not gonna happen.
The less mommy names and less I Thought She Was With You is the Batman movie that I would like to see here. Not that I hated the joking that you would see in a Batman v Superman, or more so in their upcoming projects, but dark, gritty, thinking his way through problems. That's exactly who this Batman is. These comments are great because they're also very vague. I mean, this is how you pitch a Batman movie if you're opening up before you tell people what the story is about. We're going to try to surprise some people, but it's also going to have the familiar notes. So you get people in the theaters because they want to see Batman, but they might be shocked at some of the things they've seen. And we've seen this Batman is willing to kill people occasionally if he really has to. So what is going to shock us? What's going to surprise us about this movie? I enjoy these comments, not only because they're vague, but also because Manganiello really seems excited about being involved.
All right, what's next?
In a roundtable interview with Screen Rant, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them director David Yates confirmed the younger version of Dumbledore will appear in the upcoming sequels to the movie. Yates also teased that Dumbledore this time around would have more screen time, confirming that Eddie Redmayne's Newt Scamander will have a handful of scenes together in the film. In the second movie, Dumbledore comes back. He's got a couple of good scenes with Newt. We're discussing who would play Dumbledore. Any suggestions would be good. Haha, laughs. John, thoughts on David Yates looking to cast a young Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts sequels?
Well, it raises a very interesting question. You know, when they announced that we were going to get Johnny Depp coming in to play a character, there was a lot of not completely unreasonable speculation that maybe he was going to be Dumbledore,
Or Dumble Depp, as you like
or
to
Double
say.
Depp, as I like to call him. The whole idea that, you know what, they've said that maybe they've already shot a cameo of Dumbledore for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and that maybe that's going to be Depp. So either A, he's throwing this up as a smokescreen to throw us off the trail, or B, this settles it, that Depp is not going to be Dumbledore. He's going to be another character altogether. I'm probably leaning towards the fact that Johnny Depp is another character altogether at this point. I don't know, Mark, what do you think?
He could be a dark wizard as well, because we're going to get to see, is it Grindelwald, Griffinwald? I haven't brushed up my Harry Potter.
Grimple Scrimp.
You could see Ripple Sprimple Depp in maybe him being a dark, scary character plays more into what Johnny Depp wants to do with this role. But this also could be a ruse. This could simply be somebody having a little bit of fun with us because they know that we're going to see Johnny Depp for a split second in the movie coming out later this month and reveal that he is in fact Dumbledore. But I tend to agree with Campea here. I don't think he's going to be Dumbledore. I think he's going to be somebody else, probably someone we haven't met before. But if I had to put my money on him now being a character that we already have met, it would be a much darker wizard.
Jeremy.
Here's how it's going to go down. In the post-credit scene, because everything has them now, we're going to find out that Eddie Redmayne was Dumbledore the whole time. That's what's going to happen right there. I don't want Johnny Depp to be Dumbledore. I don't want a well-known actor to be Dumbledore. I want this new, fresh face to come in and be Albus Dumbledore if we're going to get it. But I feel like there's going to be some sort of fakery that's going to happen somewhere with the Dumbledore reveal. Somehow. I feel like he's going to be in this movie, and then the next movie you won't know it. And I don't know. That's how I would do it. I love messing with people. What can I say?
Schnepp.
I want to see Johnny Depp play Dumbledore or Dumble Depp and Grimplefrim or whatever the other dude's name is.
Grimplefrim, yes.
Yeah, I say Double Depp.
Double
Double
Depp.
down, Double Depp.
All right, what's next?
According to a report from Variety, director James Strong will helm the J.R.R. Tolkien biopic Middle-earth. The film is about author J.R.R. Tolkien and the events that inspired his novels The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The story follows the author's early life, including his love affair with Edith Brat, whom he later married. When war breaks out in 1914, Tolkien embarks on 4 years of battle, hardship, and new friendships that serve to shape his imagination and start him on the path to Middle-earth. No release date has been set. Jeremy, what do you think about the J.R.R. Tolkien biopic Middle-earth?
I am jacked about this. I really am. J.R.R. Tolkien, when you find out about his life, you're like, this guy lived an interesting life. He was in World War I. He had a friendship with C.S. Lewis that was a solid friendship / uneasy friendship, depending on who you ask. I couldn't be more excited about this. This is a life I really want to know more about. You can read about it all you want, but when you see it on the big screen, you see it played out, there's something that really, as a cinema fan, really grabs me, and I feel like I now know that person. I have not seen enough about the man behind Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings. it instantly jumped on the top of my list.
Mark?
I am already casting this movie, John, way ahead of you. For Edith Bratt, I have Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing the role. Look at Young Pictures, think it matches up. And for J.R.R. Tolkien himself, none other than Mr. Tom Hiddleston. He looks like a younger J.R.R. Tolkien. He can pull it off. I want to see this movie because we so fell in love with Lord of the Rings, a lot of people for the first time once the movies came out. So it would make sense that we want to meet this guy in a cinematic sense because Jeremy makes a great point. This guy lived multiple lives, and to see Edith Bratt and his relationship, because she was kind of his muse, she inspired a lot of characters he created. I like to see how that romance plays out.
So you're not going for Johnny Depp as J.R.R. Tolkien?
Well, of course I'm going for Johnny Depp as both Edith Bratt and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Double
Damn.
Depp.
Double
Depp.
Depp. What do you think, Schnepp?
I loved Hiddleston. I think that's a great suggestion.
You're welcome, America.
He's definitely like he can do theater like I've never seen anyone else do theater besides Cumberbatch. So I love the idea of seeing a J.R.R. Biopic. I mean, why not? I mean, we've gotten so many movies from him, so many fans of his books. I think it's about time we actually see the man behind the myth, kind of thing. So especially the people they got writing it. So.
Yeah, I'm really on board for this. I love this notion. I've been reading Tolkien for so long. What I really hope they do, though, is I hope they get a little bit, although they're saying it might be in his early life, which might be a little bit too early because I can't remember when they started hanging out more, but I would love to see the relationship between J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis explored a little bit. C.S. Lewis is the guy behind The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe books and stuff like that. And the influence those two dudes had on each other is pretty significant. I'd love it if the film touched on those. But if they don't do that for now, I'm still okay with it. I mean, I just love seeing the story behind the guy who's given us all the stories. It's a great thing to do, and I'm excited about it.
It's interesting because I don't even need him to get to the point in his life when he wrote Lord of the Rings. I don't need us to get to that. I don't need to see a dude sitting in a room writing stuff for an hour. What I want to see is how his mindset and how his life changed from before he went to World War I and then afterwards. What he was like, what changed in his life that inspired him to do this writing? Was it all Edith Bratt? What is his relationship with other writers? How did he concoct these crazy ideas he had?
All right, guys, listen, it is Tuesday, which means it's time for us to talk about what is opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. There's a couple of big films opening, but we're going to focus on one today, the new film Arrival. Ashley, tell us about it.
Linguistics professor Louise Banks, Amy Adams, leads an elite team of investigators when humongous spaceships touch down in 12 locations around the world. As nations teeter on the verge of global war, Banks and her crew must race against time to find a way to communicate with the extraterrestrial visitors.
Yeah, this is one that we had a chance to run and see. Now, Mark, I know you actually really love this movie.
I really did. Yeah, despite the fact that I'm going to spoil it right now, there's no Randy Quaid flying spaceships in this movie. Yes, aliens are coming to Earth, but not a whiff of Will Smith or Jeff Goldblum, and that's A-okay with me because this is a very different aliens coming to Earth film. I'm not going to give away anything, but I love the way that language influenced how this movie played out. I thought Amy Adams was tremendous, maybe an Academy Award level performance by her. Jeremy Renner was fine as well. Forrest Whitaker was really good. I think that this is a movie, if you go to with the proper mindset, you're really going to get something out of it. Don't come in expecting a slam bang action thriller. Just take your time. You don't even need popcorn for this one. You really have a guy that's going to go in and I hear aliens are in a movie. I'm getting a large bag of corn. Bring an apple. bring some healthy, bring a thinking fruit to this movie.
Schnepp, are you looking forward to this one?
I saw it already. I saw it a month ago.
Right.
Yeah, I love this film. I think it's in my top 10 films of 2016. It's a cerebral film. What Mark said, I echo, is that it's not an action film. And that's not what it's about. It's a science fiction film first. And it's incredibly well done, and it's going to make you think. It opens up a lot of conversations, which I think is one of the greatest things about a film. After you see it, especially if you go see it with some friends, you can actually talk about a lot of the things that the film opens up the dialogue for.
What do you think, Jeremy? Are you looking forward to it? Or did you see it already?
No, I did not. The last 2 weeks it's been screening here, and then this week it was screening in Seattle, and this week I am now here. So I missed the boat on all parts on this one, but I am looking forward to this. I mean, from the first trailer, at no point should anyone go into this movie thinking action movie. You know, more Contact than Independence Day is what I'm going in there looking for, but definitely. I really don't know what to expect, and that excites me.
What kind of food are you bringing to this movie, though, Schnepp? What should we tell Jeremy to bring? Because an apple might crunch too loud, but he wants a shot of wheatgrass.
You know what? They sell these very special gummy bears with something inside that you might want to get that little flavor going.
Durban
That's
poison.
what I would suggest.
It's called Durban poison, Schnepp.
There we go.
You're talking about weed gummy bears?
I don't want to say that on national television.
Not on Collider Movie.
On national interwebs.
All right, so here's the thing. I saw Arrival, and I am in the vast minority here. I didn't like it that much. I was really, really looking forward to the movie. Amy Adams does give a terrific performance in the movie, absolutely. But for me, it just didn't click for me. But my peers overwhelmingly disagree with me on that. Like, a lot of the people I know really, really enjoy this movie. I think even though it's one that didn't quite click for me, I think it's something you definitely need to check out and be a part of the conversation on. So get out and see that this week.
We got a good gummy bear guy you should see.
We will hook
Maybe
you
that was
up.
the problem. Maybe I didn't see the gummy bear guy.
An apple and a gummy bear.
And I do want to let you know, too, that we do have a non-spoiler review for Arrival up on our Collider YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. Dennis and Perry did their take on the film. You can go and see that there. All right, guys, we've reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ash, she's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Anticipation is still at an all-time high for The Flash's solo movie, even though the production has hit a pretty big snag with their directors. Seth Grahame-Smith exited the project in May, and just recently, director Rick Famuyiwa opted out as well over creative differences. At the junket for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Collider's Ed Douglas asked Ezra Miller about losing the directors. Miller said, "These processes are complicated, and I think it can, from afar, appear to be, as you say, something interpersonal or dramatic. That is rarely the case. These are groups of people taking the development of projects extremely seriously, and the teams are changing all the time. For me, it's sort of a tragic relay race, and we've had a couple really incredible people carry this baton, and their marks are left on that baton, and the work that they've given to the project will certainly be represented in whatever the final product comes to be." Schnepp, buy or sell the comments made by Ezra Miller regarding The Flash?
I buy his comments. He also went on to talk a little bit about Jeff Johns and what his comic knowledge is bringing to The Flash. And also he went on to say how much he's been enjoying reading up on the character that he's playing. He's been absorbing all the different Flash comic books. So I'm very excited about his take as an actor on what he's going to be bringing to the role, as well as him putting it into perspective. I love that passing the baton kind of perspective on making a film, because making a film, it is not just the writer or the director or the producer or the actor. It's the entire team ensemble. And in making films, as we've seen countless times, always we'll report it, but sometimes you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and different directors have had a project and given up or gotten taken off, and so this happens all the time. So I like his approach to how it works.
What do you think, Jeremy?
I buy the fact that he's not wrong about what he said, but they've gone through about 4 directors now, right?
Well, if you count Miller and Lord as 2. Yeah.
I feel like that's going into the realm of abnormal. So I'm going to sell it. I feel like something's up on this movie, guys. Something's good. Something's going down behind the scenes. Something's crazy. There are politics involved here. Sell.
What do you think, Mark?
Here's why I'm going to buy it, is because Ezra Miller did such a wonderful job of being frank and honest about this really tough situation without like criticizing anybody. He really and he also commented about how him and Jeff Johns have been working on the character together as well. So we do have somebody that is seeing this ship forward, even though we've lost way too many directors. I like how he likened it to a relay race, where it's like we're just handing a baton to the next guy, and hopefully the next guy that grabs said baton is actually going to be able to carry it over the finish line. So he was put in a tough spot as the actor who doesn't know everything behind the scenes going on with the creative process, but he really gave a game effort in these comments, so I approve of what he did.
I sell them. Like, I just think, look, it's too much. When you've gone through 2 officially, 3 unofficially, if you count Lord and Miller, when you've gone through 3 directors or sets of directors already at this point, that points to something unfortunate, because none of them were for scheduling reasons. It was like for Seth and for Rick, it's creative reasons. And when you go through 2 sets of directors where you say you have a shared vision with the director, so you hire them, and then that falls apart. Then you say you have a shared vision with the next director, and then that falls apart. That points to there being something wrong. But just because something might be wrong right now, and I do believe something's wrong right now, that doesn't mean it can't be fixed and that everything won't be fine. Mm-hmm. I believe they can fix this. I believe they can get back on track. It might throw their schedule of their Flash off a little bit. You don't want to rush who you're putting behind the director's camera on this. You want to make sure you get the right person, especially at your 4th turn at bat. So I do believe there is something wrong here, but I don't believe it's going to be something that is going to completely throw this thing off kilter. I do want to, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to mention this. Wendy just pointed out to me that we're talking about Dumbledore. It ain't Dumbledore, it's Grindeldepp or Grundledepp or whatever the name of the other guy is. Ashley, what's the name of the other guy?
Sorry,
Not Dumbledore's... What's that?
Grindelwald.
Apparently, it has been confirmed. Director David Yates apparently has confirmed that Depp is playing Grindelwald. So that is now confirmed. He's the other dude. So I don't know if they get Jeffrey Rush to play Dumbledore, so they can pick up with their Captain Barbossa stuff
go
and their
full
whole
pirates.
Yeah, go full pirates. I don't know what they're doing with Dumbledore, so that's interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in the Twitter part of the show. We'll see when we get there. All right, what's next?
Even though Deadpool wound up being a huge hit for Fox, late last month saw the exit of director Tim Miller over creative differences with Ryan Reynolds. Despite that, a report is going around that filming on Deadpool 2 is still going to start in January. The story originated over at What's Filming, where a January production start date was noted for Vancouver, but that information is incorrect. Sources told Collider when Miller was directing, the movie was aiming to begin filming in March, so there is no way a January start date was in the cards with or without Miller. Mark, buy or sell Deadpool 2 being delayed, and now that it appears a production start date is still a ways away.
I will have to very reluctantly buy this, Ashley, because it's the way I want to see a Deadpool movie made, or a Deadpool sequel in this case. I want them to take their time. I want them to put some love into this. It's what I always tell them when they're making my burrito Chipotle. Don't rush this thing, okay? Take your time, make my meal with love, and it's going to be even yummier in my tummy. With Deadpool 2, I do not want them rushing this movie. They don't even have it direct. I do not want them to be like, oh, well, we got to have the start date. We've seen that not pan out well, even in comic book movie universes, like with Iron Man 2, when they had to get that out because they knew they had this grand plan of getting the Avengers out at a certain date, so they rushed production on Iron Man 2, and I don't think it worked out that well. I don't want to see them do the same thing with Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I think there's enough time here that you could do it without rushing it, but why would you have a January start date when you don't even have a director yet? I mean, and getting that new director is going to be really important, because we just talked about how in The Flash you've gone through 3 sets of directors. You go through one, okay, and I mean, really officially, I guess he was never on to do the first one anyway. This next director you put on board, make sure that's the right one. Make sure you get it right. Make sure you do it right. And if they weren't really planning on doing it in January, why would you speed up production on it without a director in the chair? I just don't see what would be the logic behind it. Again, if they announce it tomorrow, I mean, maybe there's some time to do it, but I like exactly what you're saying. Push this thing back till March or later. Make sure you're getting it done right, because you took years to make the first one. So yeah, I buy it. What do you think, Schnepp?
I buy that, yeah, that even with Miller involved, that they were going to start in March, because, I think they just finished up the script. And, I look at the way they turned around the first Deadpool. From the beginning of shooting, it came out a year later. So I'm not worried about them shooting or taking their time. I think they've got the well-oiled machine, and they've got Reynolds behind it. So, I mean, they could start shooting in March, and we'll see it maybe at the end of the year. I mean, that's how quick their turnarounds are with at least Deadpool. So as long as they get Arnold Schwarzenegger to be playing Cable, I'm 100% in.
Because nothing could go wrong with that. Anyway, what do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I agree with you. Do what you need to do to make the best product possible. You don't want to just say, all right, we have January, that's when we're going to start. You get a director on Christmas and then give him cliff notes and be like, hey, by the way, here's your movie. Yeah. The director's not on board. He's not on the same page. He doesn't have the vision. He's just kind of a substitute filling in. You don't want that. So, yeah, if you got to push it back. But do what you need to do to make the best Deadpool 2 possible, because Deadpool 1 was pretty kick-ass awesome.
All right, what's next?
J.R.R. recently announced the casting of Olivia Munn joining Boyd Holbrook in Shane Black's The Predator movie, with the outlet also reporting that the movie would take place in the suburbs. Apparently, that's not the case. Black himself reached out to Collider, debunking the claim, only saying that The Predator is not a movie about the suburbs. Details for the film are still firmly under wraps, with a release date set for January 9, 2018. John, buy or sell The Predator not actually taking place in the suburbs.
Well, after seeing this picture, I sell it. I want The Predator in the suburbs. This is the movie I want right here. I mean, I don't know. We don't see these pictures Ray puts together until the show starts.
Thank you, Ray. That's funny.
That
as
is
hell.
awesome. No, I buy it. Yeah. I mean, look, I was not panicked at all. When I heard they were going to do it in the suburbs, I assumed they would come up with something really cool to have it happen in the suburbs. We've seen great horror happen in the suburbs. Why can't you have great sci-fi and action that's crossed with horror happen in the suburbs as well? I just knew that if they were doing it in the suburbs, they would come up with a really good reason for it to be in the suburbs and make it good. But all things being equal, I wouldn't pick for it to be in the suburbs. So yeah, for me, I like this. This is a buy. What do you think, Jeremy?
Predator in the suburbs, I had no vision whatsoever where that worked out. The only Predators I've ever seen in the suburbs are when Chris Hansen is racking them up on camera. That's the only time I've ever seen him. I want the Predator in the jungle, Predator Prime style, so I'm glad this story is actually not true.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't want to see him like having a feud with his neighbor who happens to be a xenomorph. We don't need that in this universe. I want to see them go back to the jungle. That's why we were excited when Shane Black was talking about how this is going to be a sequel to the first Predator, and we might get Arnold back, and he knows how to defeat these things in the jungle. I want to go back there. My second favorite Predator movie is Predators, because on Wherever They Were, it felt like we were in that jungle setting again. At least give me a forest. At least give me, if it's not a jungle, don't give me the suburbs. I don't want to see the ice cream man get attacked by, it just feels all wrong. Now, if they want to start the movie out in the suburbs and we have to go recruit a couple members of our team from the suburbs to go on this mission, totally cool with me. It just never felt right that they're going to be doing it in a suburban
the guys
location.
across the street keep hanging those severed spines off their front end. We should take this to the homeowners association. I don't know, Schnepp, what do you think?
Something stinks in the suburbs. Yeah, I like that it's not set in the suburbs. We got that movie already. It was Alien versus Predator R, the second one with Pizza Boy. I don't know if you remember. There's
Requiem.
Requiem. It's horrible. So we've already been there, done that. I agree with you. Yeah, let's get it back on an alien planet or somewhere else. But it sounds like it's a sequel to the original Predator. It's called The Predator, so there's going to only be one Predator. So I'm all in for them being off in some secret, weird, crazy jungle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's next?
According to a report from Deadline, Universal has set up a remake to the John Landis classic An American Werewolf in London, with his son Max Landis attached to write the script and direct. The Walking Dead's David Alpert and Robert Kirkman are producing via their Skybound Entertainment banner. The original film followed a pair of friends backpacking through England, where they're attacked by a werewolf. It starred David Naughton and Griffin Dunn. A release date for the new reboot has not been set. Mark Byersell, An American Werewolf in London remake with Max Landis.
Ooh, Ashley, this is a tough one for me because I love American Werewolf in London. It's one of my favorite horror movies, and it definitely ranks up there with the best horror comedies you will ever see in your entire life. It was so expertly crafted by John Landis the first time, but because John Landis had a son named Max Landis, and I really like how that guy comes up with a story, I would totally be buying this right now if it was Max Landis writing it and somebody a little more experienced directing it. I'm still going to buy it, albeit tentatively, because John Landis is going to be on as an executive producer, and I think that Max Landis cares about this. Max Landis is not going to sign on and direct something unless he's truly passionate about it. We don't know what kind of movie we're going to get, but you can damn well be sure that they care about making this a quality movie and something that will hold up when you compare it to the first American Werewolf in London. And John, it's got to be at least better than American Werewolf in Paris.
Well, there's not much. I mean, Angry Birds is better than American Werewolf in Paris, and they're pretty much the same story. I'm going to sell it. American Werewolf in London is my all-time #1 favorite horror movie. I love that movie with a passion, and I love Chronicle and what Max Landis did with Chronicle as well, and some of other Max's work as well. I do not see this as a fit, though. I like when I look at the temperature and the style and the technique and all that kind of stuff in other Landis' projects, I do not see this as a fit for American Werewolf in London. I'm all for remakes. Remake my favorite movies. That's totally fine, because if it sucks, I still have the original. Totally cool, no problem. So I don't mind that they're remaking American Werewolf in London. I just don't think this is the right fit personally. So for now, I'm going to, unfortunately, but with some optimism, I'm going to sell it. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's a tough thing. American Werewolf in London is pretty quintessential. It's like that up there with The Thing for me, The Fly. It's like if someone was like, oh, so someone's doing The Fly remake, I couldn't help but back up and be like, why are they doing that? If for a movie to hold up, like American Werewolf in London, I feel holds up. So in that, why make a remake of a movie if the movie itself holds up? I can't help but just see forms of nepotism on this, and I'm going to sell it.
Schnepp?
I'm going to buy it because if anyone can take an American Werewolf in London that was written and directed by John Landis, it would be his son, Max Landis. It feels like it's a passing of the baton in a different way than the remake of The Thing or a straight reboot from someone else. And Robert Kirkman being involved, I remember that's the first time I saw or met Max Landis was 5 years ago, sitting across from him and Kirkman just nerding out about Chronicle or whatever. So it was like, it's one of those things where those guys, that team, I think is a good fit. And I think that I think it'll be a reboot, but also a remake, and it'll have all these new elements to it. So I think it's almost like a continuation, even though it is a remake. So I buy it. I would like to see what the son is going to do with the father's material.
And we can assume that team is going to be very stringent on using practical effects, a lot like what the first one was. So you're going to get to see a lot of that. I want to see a less CGI, more on the real life props in that. So like I want to see a lot of fangs, I want to see a lot of blood, I want to see a lot of real werewolf costumes on this new movie.
Definitely.
All right, so I already said that American Werewolf in London is actually my all-time favorite horror movie, but that begs the question. I'm curious, guys, what are your favorite all-time single horror movies? I'm going to start with you, Mark.
Well, a naked American man did steal my balloon one time. Having said that, I'm going to go to The Exorcist. I think it's the greatest, scariest horror movie ever made.
Jeremy, what about your favorite horror movie?
I got to throw out The Thing, just because it's a horror movie, but it's a mystery. And
Right.
also, those practical effects are way more gross than CGI could ever be.
Schnepp,
Yeah.
favorite horror movie?
The Thing,
Yeah.
without a doubt. It's one of my favorites. I watch it at least once a year. Just came out brand new Blu-ray. Check it out if you've never seen it. It is great.
But the thing, which, by the way, the one you're talking about,
It's
I'm
a
sure,
remake.
is a remake. So there you go. Girls, I'm curious. Actually, start with you. What is your favorite horror movie?
Do we love that we're sharing a camera?
Yeah.
I love that. I'm probably going to get a lot of S for this, but my favorite horror movie is actually my favorite movie, and it's Saw. I love Saw.
Oh, that's
Okay.
not a bad choice.
I
That's not
love Saw.
bad.
There's a huge twist. Some people think it's too gory, but I love the twist in there.
No one should ever say something is too gory when you're specifically talking about the horror genre.
Exactly.
What about you, Wendy? Favorite
American
all time?
Werewolf.
American Werewolf.
Werewolf.
London or Paris?
Yeah.
No, there's no choice. There is no choice. The Paris one
She
doesn't
literally
exist.
was like,
And just to be different from, I'm going to say, the Alien, the very first
Oh,
Alien.
that's
a good one.
So good.
Well
and
done.
then its sequel, one of the greatest action movies
Yes,
of
yes.
all time.
They
it's so
go
crazy.
together. You
Yeah.
can watch both of them. They're very
It
satisfying.
really is an interesting collaboration between the two. It's like horror movie, action movie, completely different sequels to each other, and they fit. I love
And
it.
then yet it works so well.
Yeah.
All right, guys, listen, we do this show live. So as we do every single day, we're going to save a little bit of time at the end of the show, take some of your live Twitter questions. If you're watching us live right now, you can start tweeting in your questions right now. Follow us on Twitter at Collider Video and start sending some questions to us. And Wendy will pick a couple at the end. Now, this would be a good time to point out that we are live. But as we announced back in September, we are changing our live time to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, we do it at 11 a.m. Pacific, but we are moving it back an hour earlier starting this coming Monday. Just be prepped for that. I also want to remind you that Movie Talk is not the only show on Collider Video today. A little bit later, that guy over there is going to be on Collider Nightmares.
That's right.
Like yourself and Clark Wolf and Perry
That's
and Mark
right.
Riley are going to be on there. Make sure you keep your eyes open for that. That drops at 5 o'clock. Also, the newest Team Movie Trivia Schmodown goes up today at 2 p.m. That's between Team Trek, that's Jason Inman and Scott Mantz, versus Team Superhero News with...
Ladies and gentlemen, Hector Navarro and Adam Halovac taking the stage. It's going to be a barn burner.
And this is
today.
their first
It's
team
their first time
competition,
entering
right?
as a team, yeah.
So make sure you check that out.
Yeah.
That goes up at 2 p.m. Also, don't forget the newest crash course about Newt Scamander, the new Fantastic Beasts, and where to find them. All the background information you need to get ready for that movie is in our newest crash course. Check that out and keep your eyes open for breaking news that drops on Collider Video every single day. All right, with that, it's time for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, just email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Ashley, what do we got in the mailbag?
Taylor Houston writes, "Hey guys, love your show. Please don't ever stop. I was looking at the box office numbers for Star Trek Beyond the other day, and I saw that it didn't do as well as its two previous installments. So I have two questions surrounding this. Is the reason for why the movie didn't do very well because of the bad advertisement of the first trailer? And also, would the box office numbers affect the possibility that a fourth installment would be made? Thanks, guys, and keep bringing the filthy."
Well,
Bringing the filthy.
bringing on the filthy. So, look, I think there are two key reasons. We touched on this before, too. I think there are two key reasons why Star Trek Beyond didn't perform as well as the previous films. And I thought Star Trek Beyond, by the way, was a really good film. I enjoyed it immensely. But two things. Number one, that you cannot overemphasize how terrible that first trailer was. The first trailer was a train wreck of a disaster, and it turned everybody off. And that only compounded the other problem, which the other problem was, while I liked Star Trek Into Darkness, I think you did too, Schnepp, there was a good amount of people out there who did not like Star Trek Into Darkness. So that probably had a lot of people going into the third film with a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth already. And then that horrendous first trailer for Star Trek Beyond hits, and that just settled it. They weren't going to go see it, which is really unfortunate because I personally think it's the best of those new era Star Trek films. As far as it affecting the possibility of the fourth one, after Star Trek Beyond came out, and studios pretty much had an idea about how much money it was or was not going to make, they came out and announced, hey, we got Chris Hemsworth lined up. He's going to return as Kirk's dad in the next one. They got their plan. So it seems like it's not going to affect it because I think they know that audiences did like this Star Trek movie and it's going to build momentum going to that. I don't know, Schnepp, how do you see it?
Well, I'll tell you, that first trailer really did affect. I mean, I didn't see Star Trek Beyond until I think it's second to last week in the theaters. I didn't go to the premiere. I didn't see, because even that trailer, that first trailer with just the Beastie Boys, it was like a music video, and it just was so everything against what I love about Star Trek. But then when I finally saw the movie, I found it to be one of the best Star Trek of all three of the Star Trek movies, the JJ Star Treks. This was the most fun and the most Star Trek-y of them all. I thought Simon Pegg really did a great job writing it. It was so much fun. Justin Lin directed the hell out of it. It's an incredible film. I was blown away by it, and then of course bummed out that it didn't make that money. So.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, there's no second first impression, man. That goes for people and movies. And that first trailer drops. Although that trailer, the movie did bring context to it, it doesn't have a place in the trailer. You have to give people their Star Trek trailer, and then when you rock Beastie Boys in the movie, then they can enjoy that.
Yes.
But don't put it in the trailer as the first impression people have for the film. And yeah, lukewarm reception for Star Trek Into Darkness. Also, those two compound on each other.
Mark.
Listen, all y'all, here's what you do, is that first of all, you have a much better trailer, and a trailer that doesn't necessarily show that you're that, like, unconfident in it being a Star Trek movie, because that was my big problem with the trailer. As a little, minute and a half clip, I thought it was fine, but it looked like they were trying to sell it as something else where you didn't need to do that. What you should do with the fourth movie that is going to happen is you don't open it in the middle of summer. I'm sorry. I don't think that you open it when you have all this other blockbuster competition right before and right afterwards. You can't tell me that because that's a science fiction movie opening the month after Independence Day 2 stunk everything up. You have all these other different types of films opening in the summer. If you open a new Star Trek movie in a February or in October, I think you have a lot better landing ground and it can be a profitable film.
All right, what's next?
Brian Knight writes, I just watched Doctor Strange, and while watching the end credits for the post-movie scenes, I saw a receptionist at Marvel Studio received a movie credit. So what could a receptionist do to receive this credit?
Look, sometimes if you really sit and read the credits when they go by, it's like the caterer gets on, like this guy who brought in lunch gets on there. The hair assistant to Mr. Cumberbatch is in there. A lot of people. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, if your efforts help contribute to this movie getting made, whether, like, you'll see a lot of truck driver number 3, just dude who drove the truck to get things from here to there. If your efforts contributed to the making of this film and made this movie possible because of your work and what you did, and if that means being the receptionist at the producer's office, helping the producer do his job to get that movie made, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's great. I think if you put an effort into a movie, it should be recognized in something as symbolic as the credits. I don't know, Mark, what do you think?
That's right. These people who are making the movie are very, very busy. Their jobs are tough. And as a receptionist, your duty is to be the last line of defense from telemarketers, from annoying family members, from idiot cousins asking for money. You do not put those calls through. The receptionist job is vital on a movie studio, as is the caterer, John. They deserve a shout out, too.
I absolutely agree. Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll be honest. In a Marvel movie, I haven't read the credits since 2009. I'm always waiting for the bell. Like, all right, let's just power through this and get to the post-credits scene.
What about 2009? Like, before that, you were reading every credit.
But before that, I was like, oh yeah, those caterers do good. All right, that's great. Oh, receptionist, there you go. Hairstylist, who knew?
Wait a minute, these are the same caterers on the Indiana Jones films. You know those actors are going to be properly hydrated and nourished.
I did notice that in Phantom Menace, when that came out, there was a guy. It's either his name is Jeremy Jahns with an O, or it's just a guy with Johns Johns as his last name. I forgot which one, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like in Phantom Menace. That's crazy.
Did you get that Terminator feeling like I'm going to have to kill all the other Jeremy Johns? That can only be one.
Yeah.
Jeremy Johns?
That's right. You're spelling it too close to my name.
I've seen some Mark Ellis's on it. I think there's a Mark Ellis stunt performer too, which hats off, man. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm a credits watcher. I appreciate every single person involved in the filmmaking process, right down to production babies. And you see like the 9 or 10 babies that were born during the process of making the film, because films take like 2 to 3 years to make. There's a very long process from pre-production to production to post-production. It's a giant workload. Every receptionist, every person who delivered a Cheeto to Benedict Cumberbatch's mouth should be properly credited.
All right, Schnepp, I'll read the credits.
God damn it, Jeremy.
And I do this, and Anne always kind of shakes her head at me because I used to work in the visual effects industry, right? So I know a lot of people in the visual effects world. So like when the credits are rolling and they get to that huge block of names that starts going for, I try to find people I would
Same
know.
here.
But Anne's like, even if you have 10 people now, you'll never catch it. That's going too fast. And she's probably right, but I'm like, oh, there's Ricardo.
Yeah, I still catch one out of the hundreds of special effects nerds that I know, because they're either at Digital Domain or DreamWorks or Scrimble Scrum, or there's a million different like sub fantasy so I do the compositing. My entire company is wire removal, so there's like 100 dudes just removing strange wires. And that's their sole job. So that's like 100 of those people. So
rotoscoping, compositing, visual effects, animators, animation riggers. He had
and Doctor Strange. I mean, I boggled at the special effects, the level of amazing special effects that movie is at. Like all those buildings transforming and stuff. I can't even imagine how many hundreds of people are just involved in just those scenes.
But I have to read every name because I have to make sure that no animals were harmed during the filming of this movie. They wrote it, so it's got to be true.
All right, guys, so I said we'd save a little bit of time, take your Twitter questions, and we're going to do that right now. Once again, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video. Wendy, what have you picked out?
First one comes from Robert Charles Young, who writes, I am a huge fan of the show, and after yesterday, I want to get into reading comics. What is a good one to start with? Marvel?
Well, I mean, it's not so much. Look, there's some great things from Marvel, from DC, from a lot of the others, not as large things you can start. So don't worry about which umbrella should you start reading under. Look, actually, there's a good one right now out there. Like since Doctor Strange is out, there's if you want to get started in Doctor Strange, is a great it's a short one. It's like I think 5, 6, 7 issues, maybe called Doctor Strange: The Oath. That's a great one to get started if you want to start there. We're talking about Batman today. If you want to really get into Batman, some people criticize me for saying this is a good starting point, but it really is. Try the Nightfall series, because if you want to get an understanding like where Batman, how kind of Batman, it was a major turning point in the evolution of the Batman character. Start there. If you want to read a one-shot, maybe The Dark Knight Returns. But yeah, look for not whether it's DC or Marvel. Look for a good individual story. Talk to some people, what are some really good story runs, and start there. If you want to move outside that, Saga is going right now, which people are losing their minds over. It's really good. There's a lot of good places you can start. The key is just start. Just pick up an issue and start reading, and I think you're going to find yourself to being a comic book reader pretty quickly. Jeremy, how would you recommend somebody get started?
Oh yeah, the Dark Knight Returns is one of the first ones I read, and it still holds as one of my favorites. If you want a good Marvel one that's current, was a Magneto run. It was just about Magneto, and at a point he had to get this person to come with them, and he has a paper clip under their skin up their arm, and he's just driving it up. And he's like, "Yep, come with me," and they're like, "Okay," I mean, this dude is hardcore. He's great. But Alan Moore's Swamp Thing was one of the ones that got me currently into like, all right, I need to read this stuff, because I mean the art, if you want modern art, it might be a little dated for you, but it's still great, and it's Alan Moore's Swamp Thing for me. But any Scott Snyder Batman, from the first Scott Snyder Batman, which I believe is Court of Owls, through Endgame, read it all. You'll love that all.
Schnepp, where would you recommend people start?
I love that you recommended Swamp Thing. That's Steve Bissette, John Toddleben art, fantastic art. I don't think it's dated. It's horror.
Just some
it's
people,
like, it's creepy and weird. For Marvel, I would go back a little bit and go with Marvels. It's an amazing story about the the Marvel universe told through a reporter's eyes, so that could in essence be your eyes. So it's a great introduction piece with incredible artwork by Alex Ross. Another amazing Alex Ross piece is Kingdom Come from DC. So that's another series that really kind of introduces you to all of the characters in a future world. You can get into it and then go back into the world now. And I would say Batman Year One is another great start off for Batman. I mean, the world of comics is vast. We're going to do a special Heroes later in this, before the end of this year, where we're going to recommend a lot of amazing comics for you to read. So check it out.
And a little side note, sorry, before we get to you, Mark. Kingdom Come and Dark Knight Returns are my top 2 favorite fights in a comic book.
Shazam!
Straight.
I mean, look, you got to start off light, okay? So for the first week, just give yourself
Coors
some
Light,
Family Circus, some Doonesbury, some Garfield, maybe a Far Side strip. That's all you got to worry about the first week. The second week, I would try to get invested in a story that is newer and has films that are upcoming, maybe next year, the year after. So go for a Wonder Woman run, go for a Black Panther run. Spider-Gwen, I hear, is really interesting too. If you want to be exactly like me, I started out in the early 90s when you had Image, you had Marvel, and you had DC. If you want to borrow the first 20 issues of Spawn, I'm your guy.
And by the way, one of the comics I mentioned was Saga, that is very popular right now. That's done by an author by the name of Brian K. Vaughan. We talked about him a little bit on Heroes. But he's got a couple of titles, if you want to check it. He's an amazing writer. Check out Saga, check out Why the Last Man, or check out The Runaways.
Or Ex Machina.
But those ones are really good, I think, primers for somebody who hasn't picked up graphic novels or comic books before. All of those are really good to get started.
Let me definitely also throw people onto the tip of Ed Brubaker, an incredible writer. He's writing on Westworld right now, but the comics that he's been doing in the film crime noir series like Criminal, you got to check those out. They're incredible.
All right, what do you got next, Wendy?
All right, Xander Tenigawa writes, if you were a teacher or professor in film class, what movies would you make your students watch whether they want to or not?
That's a
Whether they
good
want to or
question.
not. Every time a teacher would do that to me and I didn't want to watch it, I would call that nap time. But if I really had to pick one of my favorite movies ever that a lot of people don't know this is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, that's amazing.
If I were a teacher, I probably wouldn't show it because it straight up would show oh, okay, if you want to mess with the authority figure, here you go. But it still is. Everything I have from my respect for authority came from R.P. McMurphy and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
There would be 2 that I would show. One is the original Godfather, because I've shown a couple of friends of mine The Godfather who had never seen it before. And what is remarkable about that movie is that when you see Godfather for the first time, it's like your eye opens and you realize, holy crap, every movie ever made since this movie came out has been influenced by this movie. And you watch it for the first time and you're like, this is like patient zero of modern movie making. It's been so influential for almost everything that's come out since. The other, and it is one of my all-time favorite films, but I also think it would be a great thing to show like a film class, is The Shawshank Redemption. When you talk about how to handle character and how to handle sub-stories all at the same time within one beautiful package, like the scene where I'm forgetting the older dude's name. It's a one-word name.
Red?
No, not Red, but he's the one who gets paroled. He was the librarian. He gets paroled and then gets out and he ends up hanging himself.
Was it Brooks?
Yeah, Brooks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brooks was here.
Slow down. 1 point.
Brooks was here. I mean, the way they made you care and get invested, it's beautifully done. One of the greatest movies ever made. So those are the 2 I would make people
All right,
watch.
how old are these kids? Is this like a college level? Because if it's like 8th graders, I'm going to show them Prisoners. And I'm like, if you kids act up, this is what's going to happen to you.
Prisoners.
On an 8th grade level, I think I'd show them stuff like around election time. I'd probably show them something like Citizen Kane. I would show them Glory or The Patriot for a war type movie that also has some history involved. If it's like a college level film class, you have to see The Searchers and High Noon. They're both Westerns, and you need to see both of them because they tell great stories. I would throw Easy Rider in there, and I would throw something from Kubrick and Kurosawa.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, like what? So what was the age group? It's like roughly high school?
Anything you want it to be.
I was teaching 8th graders, and then I showed them Prisoners, and I got fired.
Right.
So then I kind of bounced around working odd jobs,
Sure.
and I got hired at a college teacher.
Okay, I would say a college level course or high school course would definitely. I mean, I just saw Casablanca for the first time on the big screen with a nitrate print, so I would show them Casablanca because that moved me like I'd never seen it before. So within the proper context, showing them any of the AFI top 100s would be a great call. I would definitely also kind of categorize it by like filmmaker. So depending on how long the course was, it would be like there would be a Kubrick day, there would be a Sergio Leone day, there would be a Coppola day, there would be a Scorsese day, there would be a Lynch day, there would be a Cronenberg day. I don't know how long this course is, but I would go quite in depth because I think the world
Where in
of
the
film,
schedule is the Michael Bay day?
let's get back. I would show Pain and Gain. Look, I mean, Michael Bay has also made some really cool
see
films.
Yeah,
The Rock,
absolutely.
you
The
see Bad
Rock.
Boys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you could pick, even a director who's got a bunch of stinkers, at least to us, has got a couple of really good hits in there. So, I mean, I think the film class would be a lot of fun to turn people on the right way to films. Like, I'm definitely going to sit Mark down, and we're going to watch Blade Runner.
It would be
Yeah.
nice. It would be remiss if we didn't mention the original Star Wars trilogy too. I mean, that's pretty influential.
If you want to talk about influential modern films, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr.
So
Ellis wears a Star Wars tie every time. And yes, I am. I just gave myself a PhD.
All right, let's take two more.
Okay, this one comes from Collider fan page, and they write, "Hey guys, do you think Ezra or Kanan from Star Wars Rebels are any way related to Rey? I feel like the timeline works. Thanks."
We talked about this on Heroes, which, by the way, make sure you check out Collider Jedi Council. Did I say Heroes? I did. I mean Jedi Council, which airs every Thursday. Check that out if you're a Star Wars fan. We talked about it before. Does the timeline work? In a way, there is a way for it to work. There is. I don't think that's where they're going. I don't think they're going to make... I think you'll hear mentions. There's some cameo opportunities. I don't think they're going to have any of the major story points of Rebels or characters in Rebels become major story arcs or major points in the feature films. I think there's going to be some connection. I don't think they're going to draw a line that thick and that hard to it. But I think you're right. I think the timeline would allow for it if they wanted to. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean, look, a nice thing about being a guy is that you can procreate when you're 15 and you can procreate when you're 65. So Ezra has plenty of time to meet somebody. I don't know that his timeline is going to allow him to age that much, though, because Ezra's a dude. He's dabbling in the dark side a lot. We don't know how that's going to end, and specifically for the reason you said, because we have not heard of Ezra in the movies. So where is he? Is he off making a baby in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and that is who Rey is? It's an interesting theory.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I feel like there is going to be, like you said, tie-ins somehow. The most interesting theory I heard was that Ezra was somehow Snoke, and usually I go on Snoke theories, but I was like, actually, that'd be kind of interesting. That would really punch everyone in the face that they've been following the leader of Kylo Ren all this time. I have no idea, but yeah, the timeline matches up, but I feel like there's going to be a tie-in somehow to the TV shows.
Well, Jeremy, we all know that Jar Jar is Snoke.
Oh, of course, Mace Windu for sure.
Yeah, these theories kill me. You know what? Star Wars is going to operate, in my opinion, much like the Marvel universe. It's backwards compatible. Like whatever's in the film will trail off into the TV series, but not vice versa. I don't think the films will be affected at all by anything that happens in the television series, if not only by just maybe they'll take a character that was in Rebels and like throw him in the background or something. I don't see that anything happening in Rebels affecting any of the Star Wars movies.
All right, last question of the day.
This one comes from Dan Bettenhausen, who writes, "What are the consequences to a reviewer for breaking an embargo? Anything beyond loss of access?"
No, but consider, okay, that's like saying, okay, what would be the possible punishment, the repercussions of a football player who breaks the league's substance abuse policy? Anything beyond just not being able to play the game? That's a life sentence. I mean, that ends their career. So, I mean, for somebody, especially somebody whose like entire career and job is based on getting to see these movies before the general public so they can put out hopefully an informed opinion and position on that movie and give their thoughts on the movie, to get banned then and no longer invited to those films, that's basically taking away your ability to do your job. That is a serious consequence, and one that a studio, if they say, look, there's an agreement that says sometimes we go to screenings and a lot of times we go to screenings, there's no embargo. Sometimes the studio wants to be very strategic about when the buzz starts generating. So we'll see a movie like a month in advance, but we got to wait a couple of weeks for an embargo. There's an agreement, an implicit agreement between reviewers and studios that, hey, look, we're letting you come to see this movie under the condition that you agree not to you can write whatever you want, whatever your opinion you want, but under the condition you don't release that opinion until this date. This is our embargo date. And if you violate that trust, if the studio decides to ban you, you deserved it. I accidentally once broke a embargo. It was totally by accident. I had a misunderstanding, but the studio rep and I worked it out. They knew it was totally by accident, and I was completely apologetic for it, and we fixed it. But embargoes need to be respected because it's a tit for tat. If we're letting you into our theater, or into this room we've booked for you to see it early, you've got to respect that we don't want reviews to come out until a certain date. And I think that's important. Anyway, Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, you got to be forward thinking about it. Right now, you may say like, "Oh, I'm starting out. It doesn't really matter." But sometime down the road, you might not just be starting out anymore. You could be a bigger name, and then if you're banned from the privilege of watching the movies early, that'll compromise in the competitive market of movie reviewing. When you get it up, and then you'll see the people that you're going up against, they have it up, but now you have to wait to see it with the general public. Yeah, don't do that. Just I was always lucky. I was one of those people like, oh, I'm just not going to break embargoes because I feel like one day that will really come back to bite me. So, and then you just don't want to. So, if the worst thing that happens is that you no longer get to screen movies, that's pretty much the worst thing that can happen. So don't do that.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't really have a good answer to this question. We might have broken one accidentally one time, but I think John's right. Is that studios can be forgiving if they realize it was done on accident, but it seems to be a studio by studio basis. Like I'm not sure that one studio is even going to get wind that you broke another embargo. But if the movie's big enough and they want to keep the shroud of secrecy that much as far as reviews getting out, then it can make ripples across the entire studio chain. I don't know of anybody that broke embargo so much that they're like not allowed to review movies anymore. I don't know what that penalty looks like. I don't know if it's an actual penalty that is deserved or if it's like Richard Sherman last night where they just throw a flag on you for 5 yards. Probably should have been something more.
Admittedly, as a Seahawks fan, it probably should have been something more. Yeah,
I wish I knew what they were talking about. I didn't watch that. Go Cubs! That's all that really mattered this entire year is that the Cubs won. What's up, son? Yeah, what are we talking about again? Yeah,
embargoes.
Yeah, you know what? Embargoes, like, look, if someone's gonna give you a free pass to see a movie like a month in advance, don't be a dick and talk about it if you're not supposed to. If mistakes happen, I understand that, but no one is doing that and then continually getting re-invited if they keep doing that. That's like stealing movies online. You're a jerk. Don't do it.
Having said all that, though, Rogue One is awesome. I can't wait for everybody else to go see it. It's so good.
That's so good. All right, guys, that'll do it for this episode of Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, listen, a couple of programming things. Start not this week, but starting next week, just like we're changing our launch time from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m., we're also doing a little bit of a switch. Heroes, which normally airs on Wednesdays and will air this Wednesday, but starting next week, Heroes will move back to its original air date, which is on Tuesdays, and Nightmares will be moving to Wednesdays. Jedi Council will stay on Thursdays. Just something to keep your eye out for. I'm sure we'll mention it again on Heroes this week. I want to thank the people sitting at the table with me. First of all, over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Jon Schnepp. And like John just said, Heroes will be on this Wednesday, but then next week we're going back to our original Tuesday, just because it had to happen. And you can find me in Pasadena in about a week and a half at DesignerCon, November 19th and 20th. It's a toy vinyl freak fest, and I've got my Unicron there, so check it out.
Mr. Jeremy Jahns. Jeremy, where can people find you?
On YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Jeremy Jahns. Come on over. It is a party 24/7.
Sitting over here, Mark Ellis.
I enjoy your channel, and I love your Unicron. You guys can find me next weekend. I'll be at the world-famous Comedy Store in La Jolla, just north of San Diego, doing Friday and Saturday shows. You can find me on Twitter at Mark Ellis Live, and of course, Christian and I's channel, Schmoes Know.
And of course, back there we got Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Ashley Mova. Happy Tuesday, guys.
And of course, Wendy Lee.
You can find me on YouTube at The Movie Couple Channel and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Wendy Lee Zaney.
You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, simply at John Campea. Make sure you subscribe to Comic-Con HQ, where Jon Schnepp and I have our show, Film HQ, new episodes every Saturday. And once again, guys, you know, we talk about movies and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. Today is a really significant day in this country's history. It is your opportunity to go out and do something that a lot of people around the world wish they could do, which is have a say in which direction their government goes. Doesn't matter who you're going out to vote for. Just exercise that freedom, exercise that right, exercise that responsibility today. Make some time, get out and vote. That'll do it for us today, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Jon Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.